Why did I stay up for that? Why did I bother staying up to watch the Phillies last night? I really, that was the first thought I had when I woke up this morning was, why did I do that to myself? Like yesterday, I was talking about this exclusive club. By the way, good morning. Hi, I'm Marc. This is the Farzy Show. Welcome to Steven Singer Studios. Paul Hudrick is our guest today to break down all that happened with the Sixers in Summer League and Joel Embiid, and I'm excited about that. But why did I do that? I talked yesterday about this exclusive club, and I do. Like when the first pitch comes, throw the first pitch, and I'm like, I know there's only the real hardcore fans that are up watching this one. And then, like, I know the hardcore fans are the ones this morning that are going, why? And sure enough, Kyle Gibson didn't pitch terribly last night. Kyle Gibson pitched himself a good game. He allowed 3 runs. One of them was on a two of the runs were on a 2-run home run. And overall, he pitched well. Didn't drastically miss his spots by any means. Gave you another quality start, which is exactly what he does every single time he starts. But as you're trying to stay awake, the Phillies bats are falling deeper and deeper into a deep sleep and not producing for you at all. Brad Miller in the 8th inning got the first hit for the Phillies, and I believe it was 5 innings. Like, they were just completely shut down in this ballgame. He had a home run from Bryce Harper, which was nice. Still, guess what? Yet another one with nobody on base. This team just really does not like getting on base before Bryce Harper's about to swing a baseball bat. So he does not come up with the substantial RBIs for you last night, trying to save you in this game. Brad Miller hit a couple of balls last night that could have been home runs at Citizens Bank Park. They love doing that layout for a StatCast where they show you a Citizens Bank Park wall versus the Arizona wall last night. I've actually been in that stadium. It's a nice stadium. But I'm looking at it, and like there's just no life to the Phillies offense last night. And you see a game where you only score 2 runs, and you think, well, yeah, that should be pretty obvious. But there were plenty of opportunities for the Phillies to actually put the barrel of the bat on the baseball for you. And there was one time where Ben Davis actually mentioned it last night where the Phillies had their opportunities, but they were just swinging and missing at pitches. You had Ronald Torreyes last night step to the plate, and in a 1-0 count, when you had Tyler Clippard that was actually struggling on the hill to throw a damn strike, he swings at a 1-0 pitch and actually gets a pitch to hit, drives it to right field, but again, just misses it in terms of even making it a home run or really drive it into the gap. He put good wood on it for the most part, but just missed it a little bit to the point where he could have tied things up for you. There were numerous occasions last night where you thought your offense could have gone out there last night and actually put bat on ball, solid contact, and drove it into a gap. And it just wasn't meant to be. It was like, and you're talking about a baseball team, as we covered yesterday, has the 3rd worst run differential in all of baseball. They're tied with the Orioles. I read something yesterday about the Orioles. The Orioles rebuild is going great. And I'm like, the rebuild. Like, in order to have a rebuild, you have had something before. And the Phillies the Orioles haven't had that really since, 96? Like, come on. And you're facing a team that's basically the Orioles, and you can't muster up a win with one of your better pitchers on the bump. Kicking myself. And here's the other thing. Guess what? Tonight I'm going to do the same thing all over again. All right? You know what? One of my favorite lines ever in show business was from Johnny Carson on his last episode where he said, if I could somehow magically, I'd like to hit rewind and do the whole thing all over again. Like, that's how much he loved his life and how much he loved doing that Tonight Show, right? I'm going to do it again, and I'm not going to like it. I'm going to relive the whole process again, and I ain't going to like it. I'm going to hate myself for it. 9:40, another start time today. Ranger Suarez goes for the Phillies. And hopefully, you know what? We can say, hey, that's baseball. You win some, you lose some. Well, the Phillies have lost a lot. Phillies are now 2.5 games out of first place because the Braves won yesterday. The Braves won before the Phillies lost. So you're looking at the standings before the game. And you're like, hold on, how many games are going to be out now? And it says 2. And you're like, oh, damn it. You can either stay at 1.5 or you're going to drop to 2.5. It's 2.5. Phillies have now lost 5 of 7. You know that whole thing we were saying just when I was out, they pulled me back in, and now they're pushing me back out. I'm not happy about it. Ranger Suarez, he'll be pitching. Good times. Anybody else going to stay up for that? Anyone else? No, going to stay up for no? Good times. So, Joel Embiid, 4-year contract extension, $196 million. Not a bad day at the office. I love the pictures that they're putting out there yesterday with Josh Harris and Joel Embiid. It's like, what do you talk about? What do those two talk about? But anyway, side of the contract, other than money, side of the contract, he's going to be here for at least another 5 years now for the Sixers. He gets the max contract extension that he can when a team has all your rights and all that stuff. I'm thrilled about it. It was something that you knew was going to happen. You knew they weren't going to go, well, I don't know, I'm not so sure, Joe. Like, what are they going to do? Are they going to look at this whole situation when we look back on it, and we're going to go, the Sixers going to look at it and say, oh, well, let's see. All right, we lost on purpose for a number of years, and then we had 2 first-round picks, or two number one overall picks not pan out, with Ben Simmons eventually being moved on. Markel Fultz obviously moved on a lot more immediate than Ben Simmons was. And then walk away with it just looking at Joel Embiid as not only the crown jewel of the process, but the only jewel of the process. Yeah, that's not how they're going to look at it. They're going to look at it and say, yeah, Joel Embiid, we're going to at least lock him up as we get the crown jewel and the jewel of the process here in Philadelphia for a substantial amount of time. Because just think about that for a second. If Ben Simmons does, in fact, get traded, and it's for anything less than a star, if it's for anything less than Dame Lillard, you're thinking about this going, wow. So we were the worst team in basketball for a number of years. And now we're in a situation where we only have one great player to show for it. And they just weren't bad. They just didn't take for 1 year for one player. They take for a number of years for a number of players and got one. That doesn't make you feel warm and cozy. That doesn't make you feel warm and fuzzy either. So, yeah, they inked Joel Embiid. Needed to happen. I'm glad it happened. Now it's a matter of building around him. And he said all the right things yesterday, how much he loves Philadelphia. The Sixers released a video of a little one-on-one interview they did with Joel Embiid saying, what does it mean to you to be here? And he said that he always thought that him and Philadelphia were always the perfect match. And there are certainly times where that has been true. Most of the time that is true. I think sometimes with the Sixers not winning a championship, with the Sixers still not making it past the second round of the playoffs, the Sixers still not making it to a conference finals, I think there's a lot of that people look at it and go, all right, Joe, enough of the horsing around, enough of the joking around. Let's get back to business. And sometimes we have some miscommunications. No better example than when he shushed the crowd. I thought that was funny. I thought you were either in on the joke or you weren't in on the joke. Turns out a lot of people weren't in on the joke, at least initially. But most people, I thought, looked at it and went, all right, Joe, I get it, whatever. But I didn't feel like there was the outrage, say, with a Jimmy Rollins situation where Jimmy Rollins says Philadelphia is a bunch of front runners, and then the town freaked out at him for it, and rightfully so. But I just always felt like with Joel Embiid, you're either in on the joke or you're not. And most of the time, I think Philadelphia and him are on the same page. And most of the time, Philadelphia and him, are in a situation where they kind of just understand one another. And Joel even had the presence of mind after they lost in the playoffs to the Atlanta Hawks to tweet out for the audience just to say, this is why I played on a torn meniscus. I was trying to push us through, trying to get us to a conference championship, and that wasn't the case. But I'm happy he's here. I'm glad that's done. Now the team has to build around him. Now the team has to go out there and show them they're serious, not just with money, but with players. If you're going to trade Ben Simmons, go get yourself Dame Lillard. Make that happen as soon as possible so we can all move on with our lives, please. Did I mention the Phillies lost? Did I mention I'm really bummed about that? Look, like I usually – there, I'll do this for you. Here we go. Ready? Yeah, usually it's I'll have that before the show, like an hour before the show. And then I'll just be enjoying some fine water. And now I have to have the espresso right now in front of your faces. Anyway, on another lighter note, on a more positive note, Jalen Reagor has been having some pretty great catches in training camp. Obviously not in game, but in training camp, he's been having some pretty great catches. And yesterday, Jalen Reagor had the catch of training camp against the Patriots yesterday at camp. If you haven't seen this yet, This is pretty remarkable. Take a look at this. Jalen Reagor making himself a statement. Here it comes. Look at that. By the way, look at Dave Zingaro coming in here at the end here. See if you can catch him. One more time, I'll show it to you. Right at the end, towards the right, Dave Zingaro. I texted David. I just said, don't act like you're not impressed. It was a remarkable catch. And here's the other part. You could tell Jalen Reagor was really impressed with himself because he was all over himself. Look at all the everybody that could possibly have tweeted this out or Instagrammed this, posted this, whatever. He posted everybody that reacted to his incredible catch. He made sure that he put it out there for you to rewatch on social media. Hey, man, whatever you need to do for your confidence, whatever you need to do to build that up right now, going into this season to make sure you're playing at the absolute highest level, worthy of a first-round pick, good on you for it. It was a phenomenal catch, one-handed catch for you. It was not like Odell Beckham because he was reaching behind him. That still remains the greatest catch I've ever seen, or the best catch I've ever seen, that Odell Beckham catch. I was at that game at the Meadowlands. That was a Sunday night game. And if you remember, the Eagles played the Cowboys that Thanksgiving following that game and just stomped them with Marc Sanchez. But anyway, Jalen Reagor with a phenomenal practice yesterday, phenomenal catch yesterday. And was pretty proud of himself posting that all over social media as he was following everyone or reposting everybody that put it out there. That was great to see. Nick Sirianni addressed the media yesterday. One real positive thing that came out of yesterday in general, away from just phenomenal plays, was just somebody did play, and that was Devontae Smith. He was week to week. Now he seems to be day to day. He was working himself in a little bit more than just one-on-one drills yesterday, so that was great. The best news I could get later today is that Devontae Smith is going to play Thursday night against the Patriots in their second preseason game this preseason. That would be awesome. That's the one real missing ingredient. I'm sure Jalen Hurts is still going to play. I'm sure Joe Flacco will get his reps. I think Nick Sirianni is going to treat this more like that dress rehearsal game. I think a lot of coaches around the league are going to do that with preseason game number 2 on their schedule here. But I would love to see more Jalen Hurts. I think we're going to get that. I'd love to see Miles Sanders out there. Apparently, he's still struggling catching the football. But what would really, really excite me is if Devontae Smith got his first pro reps and his first taste of professional football. For him to step foot on the practice field yesterday in an increased capacity from the previous day is a great sign that that's actually going to happen. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. Nick Sirianni, when he addressed the media, did not really get into it, saying that starters were going to play this much, starters are going to play that much, whatever it might be, or who was going to play and who wasn't. He didn't even get into who was going to start the game. I'm going to assume that's going to be Jalen Hurts again. So I look forward to that actually happening and all that coming together and getting to see a guy like Devontae Smith finally catch some passes from Jalen Hurts in a pro game and see him get that under his belt. Look forward to seeing that happen. Sixers did wrap up Summer League yesterday. It was a consolation game I had forgotten about yesterday, but they did play. Jared Springer, one hell of a game, 21 points for a team high. That was nice. Tyrese Maxey didn't play. B-Ball Paul did play. He had 17 last night, so that was great. But they ended with a win, 103-98 over the Utah Jazz. Sixers wrap up Summer League with a winning record, 3-2. So there you go. Let me tell you about my good friend Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers before we get to Paul Hudrick coming up in just a second. Let's get to this. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking to get engaged, go no further than IHateStevenSinger.com. You can look at all the beautiful inventory they have at Steven Singer Jewelers, all the gorgeous diamonds, the necklaces, the tennis bracelets, the rings, of course, the engagement rings, the Ready for Love diamond engagement rings, all of it available at IHateStevenSinger.com. And Steven makes it so easy to get engaged. He takes away all the pressure. That's why people say, I hate Steven Singer. There's no excuse. Oh, I don't know how much to spend. It's too expensive. I don't know what I'm doing when I'm buying a ring. They get you prepared. They walk you through everything at Steven Singer Jewelers. If you're looking to get engaged, you're looking to buy that big jewelry purchase for someone special in your life, IHateStevenSinger.com. Always fast and free shipping, and you know you're going to get treated like family every time you walk in the door at Steven Singer Jewelers. Every single time, because every single time it's set at the perfect price. You don't have to worry about haggling, negotiating, nothing like that. You just walk in worrying about what you want to buy and who you want to buy it for. A real jewelry expert will walk you through all that at Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right in Philadelphia, or online at IHateStevenSinger.com. Every single day, the perfect price at Steven Singer Jewelers. Ladies and gentlemen, it's no secret this man has been a guest many times on the show, and anytime something comes up big with basketball, we love breaking it down with Paul Hudrick. And Paul, since the last time we talked to him, this man's got a new gig, and I couldn't be happier for it. And you know what? Before we throw it to him, I just want to say this. For all the young people out there, when Paul was starting out at NBC, I'm going to embarrass him for a second. Like, this guy was always a pro. Always a pro. When he had his opportunities to run the morning call we always used to have, Paul was always prompt, concise, telling you what he was writing about, telling you what everybody else was going to be writing about for NBCSportsPhilly.com, and just always a pro. And I knew when he got released into the wild for free agency, as I did when I was at NBC, I knew this guy it was just a matter of time before he had his next good gig. He's going to be with Liberty Ballers. Now we talk about it here. Joining us on the Rothman Orthopaedics guest line, my good friend, Paul Hudrick. And joining us right now on the Rothman Orthopaedics guest line, my good friend, I couldn't be happier for this guy. Not only does he host Coming In for a Landing podcast, but now he is basically, I would call him the managing editor of Liberty Ballers, a great, great website cover of the 76ers. Paul Hudrick joins the show. What's up, Paulie?
Mark, it's good to see you, man. Thank you for that lovely, energetic introduction. I appreciate it.
I couldn't be happier for you. You and I... I guess it was maybe almost a year ago, actually. We were both set into the wild from NBC Sports Philly, and I was like, you know what, by golly, I thought I had a good run. That Paul Hudrick's going to land on his feet fast. Not that you were ever off your feet, but he is going to get the next gig rapidly, and you fell in with 97.3 and ESPN, and I knew it was just a matter of time before you had a consistent writing gig, and this Liberty Ballers thing is better than I could have imagined for you. I could not be happier for you, and Liberty Ballers, I hope they realize how lucky they are at Liberty Ballers to have the great Paul Hudrick.
Oh, listen, that's far too kind, but I'm also very lucky to have them, man. It's like you said, it's already got such a great foundation. They really caught lightning in a bottle during the process years with some of the really talented people they have, and they're still the guys that I have right now are incredibly, incredibly talented, pumping out great written content, great podcast stuff, and I'm looking out for more talent. So hey, if you like Sixer stuff, here I am on Marc Farzetta show soliciting you. No, I'm really excited for the future, and I just what's already there, and I just want to make it bigger, better, and just for a Sixers fan, I want to make it a one-stop shop for you. So that's the goal.
You can check out Paul also at onlyhoopsfans.com. Anyway, all right. So Joel Embiid goes out there and he signs his extension. He's going to be a Sixer until he's 33 years old now. This was a deal I thought that had to get done. It was just a matter of time before it got done. I'm glad it's done. What was your reaction to seeing the news with Joel Embiid?
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you. I think when we spoke before, I said I would have offered it to him as soon as you physically possibly could offer it to him, because it's just, I know that some people might talk about the injury history and all that, but this guy, especially like everything he's gone through with this organization, he had an MVP caliber season last year. He is your guy. He is the superstar. He is the face of your franchise. And I think you should be proud to have him as the face of your franchise, because he's a hell of a basketball player. His personality, he's just perfect for the city of Philadelphia. He really, truly is. And he does a lot of great stuff, in the community for Philadelphia. And I think the one thing that Philadelphians love and appreciate is when someone genuinely embraces the city. And I think of all the athletes we've seen over the last decade, with all due respect to some of the guys that have come through here, I don't know that there is a guy, maybe, recently Bryce Harper, but a guy who has just really embraced being in Philadelphia, being the face of the franchise, being, and having that connection with the fan base. I mean, I don't think there is a guy who embodies that more than Joel Embiid. So certainly not surprised this happened. For the Sixers' sake, I'm very glad it happened. And, again, just to have this guy be your star, your franchise player, I think the Sixers and the city of Philadelphia are, quite frankly, very fortunate.
I couldn't agree more. I can't think of any other athlete that could literally shush Philadelphia and have the majority of the fan base be like, haha, Joel's funny. Like, usually that guy would be like chased down by a mob, an angry mob with pitchforks and torches. But this guy, most of the fan base just went, JoJo. Who else gets away with that? Anybody?
But it's funny is because everyone did, if you recall, everyone did lose their mind because him and Jimmy Butler had like a little back and forth.
Oh, right.
And everyone lost their mind for like 5 minutes. But then Joel Embiid came out and was like, whoa, guys, I love you. I love it here. We're good. And then everything was back to normal. So like that's more to the point, though, how long he's been here. And that's like the only blip of anything resembling he doesn't want to be here. He might not want to be here. Like that's it. Everything else for his career has been, I want to be here. This is where I started my career. This organization has had my back, and I want to finish my career here. So just that little tiny blip, everything else has been super positive, and he's been, again, just so inviting of the city and wanting that to be his legacy.
Now, it seems like he's, of course, sold on the city of Philadelphia. It seems like he's sold on the Sixers franchise. Do you think, or do you have any inside information as far as if any conversation was had about, look, obviously you guys want to give me this deal. I want this deal from you, but I also want to win. Is the number one priority, if it hasn't been already, making sure Joel Embiid's happy and has support here to win a championship in Philadelphia?
I think the one thing, Daryl Morey's done a lot of things right, but I think the one thing he got right as soon as he took this job was, all right, I have Joel Embiid, I have Ben Simmons. What do I do around those two guys? And that, to me, was always like, I think the Sixers kind of lost that a little bit for a year or two. And I think Daryl Morey kind of re-centered that focus of just building around those two guys. Clearly, Ben Simmons, that situation's a little murky right now. I'm sure you're going to ask me about that, and we'll get to that. But
what?
But I think it's very clear that Joel Embiid and Daryl Morey are on the same page, have a great relationship. Daryl Morey is a guy who is always on the quest for star players. He was always like that in Houston. He's going to continue to be that way here. He already has one with Joel Embiid, and he is acutely aware that he already has one. So you see them out there playing tennis and their relation, like that's not an accident. Like Daryl Morey knows that is his guy. That is the guy that if he's going to win a championship in Philadelphia, it's all going to center around Joel Embiid. So I think from both sides, there is a mutual trust of Daryl Morey trusts Joel Embiid that, you know, he's on the focus that's all Joel Embiid wants is to win a championship. He's going to do everything he can from a fitness standpoint, from a skill standpoint to try to deliver that to here. And I think Joel Embiid trusts that Daryl Morey is doing that in the front office side of things, that he's going to do everything in his power to surround Joel Embiid with championship pieces and try to make this a championship team. So I think that mutual trust is huge. And I have to wonder too, Mark, like if this extension takes place when, and with all due respect to Elton Brand, because I don't know, if it's just Elton Brand in the front office, does he get this done? I don't know. But I think that Daryl Morey connection with Joel Embiid, I don't think that can be overlooked when you're talking about what made Joel Embiid, on top of all the other things we've already talked about. That was, I think, certainly one of the determining factors in Joel Embiid feeling good about signing that extension.
I want to move on for a second here, talk about a little bit the summer league before we talk about that other guy, one guy from Australia, not named Matisse Thybulle. When you look at this summer league team, B-Ball Paul has an incredible game the other day, 20-plus points, 20-plus rebounds, just goes bonkers for the 76ers. Who is B-Ball Paul? What is B-Ball Paul more importantly? Is he a guy that can actually be a role player in the NBA and off the bench guy in the NBA, can be a starter? When you see B-Ball Paul Reed play, what do you see?
I'm very curious what he is because this is a guy, and I think you had me on probably not long after the draft last year. I love this kid. Like I loved him at DePaul. There was just something about him that was really intriguing at his size, with his length, and his activity level, to also still have that skill to him. There was just something about him. I'm like, man, like this guy's got something. I can't really quantify it necessarily, but like he's got something. And you know, they took a flyer on him late, obviously, in the second round. So when you take a guy that late, you're not expecting him, you know, to perhaps fight for a rotational spot in just the second season. But I think, you know, maybe not a rotation spot this year, but I think there is an opportunity for him to earn minutes. One of the things Daryl Morey talked about after this year's draft, after he takes Philip Petrusev and he takes Charles Bassey, he said he wanted big men who are switchable and can stretch the floor. Well, then he went out and signed Andre Drummond, who really doesn't do either of those things. So I think you need an option that can do that. And I think in some instances, I think Paul Reed can provide that. I think he can play minutes at the breakout game he had the other night. He was exclusively at the 5. So I think there is an opportunity that if there is a matchup that does not favor Andre Drummond, that you can go to a Paul Reed who can step out and hit a 3, but can also still do a lot of the things Drummond does, whether it's offensive rebounds, whether it's setting screens, whether it's rim protection. He can do those things too. So, and especially if Ben Simmons is still on this basketball team, to have that guy, because we all know that the Ben Simmons Dwight Howard duo was a disaster offensively. When you threw Matisse Thybulle in that mix, it was even more disastrous. So maybe if you can mix in a Paul Reed in certain matchups, that could open things up. That could help. So I don't know ultimately what his ceiling is, but I think that if he stays within himself, when he's not trying to do too much on either end, sometimes he tries to do too much offensively, maybe over dribbles, gets a little careless, creates, makes turnovers. Defensive end, sometimes he could be a little over aggressive, maybe, kind of loses assignment, commit fouls. If he can just harness those things and be an elite role player, I am very intrigued by what his future holds. But it's just a matter of him harnessing that. And if he can do that, I do. I think he is a rotational NBA player.
Mm-hmm. I got to say, Tyrese Maxey, we have to mention him. He did exactly what I thought he'd do in the Summer League, which is play extremely well. For a guy that was getting substantial playoff minutes, for him to go to the Summer League after not having it during his rookie season, I thought he played great. Other takeaways from Tyrese Maxey?
Yeah, I'm just so intrigued by him right now because I've always felt like the floor was high. Like I always felt like, okay, at least I think this guy can be an NBA starter. I thought he never should have slipped in the draft to 21. He never should have fell to the Sixers. But he, of all guys who really suffered, from a basketball standpoint from the pandemic, Tyrese Maxey didn't get an SEC tournament, didn't get an NCAA tournament. He didn't get pre-draft workouts. He didn't get a traditional combine. He gets drafted by the Sixers, gets to camp. He misses part of camp because he gets COVID. Even after all of that, to have the rookie year he had on a team that was the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, and then, like you mentioned already, to contribute in the playoffs. Mark, he saved their season in Game 6. They lose Game 6 if he doesn't play as well as he did. So for him to take that path, and then you see in the Summer League, like you already mentioned, I mean, just the confidence and the skill level. And then on top of that, Mark, he works his butt off. Doc Rivers already talked about, they track how often guys are in the gym. Last year, he said by far, Tyrese Maxey was in the gym more than anybody last year. So you have the work ethic. You have, how coachable he is, how much he grew just within the season last year. And then on top of that, man, he's just likable. He's just a really good kid. The fans love him, and it's deserved. He's just such a nice guy. And he's always been cordial with the media. He always answers our questions to the best of his ability and does it with a smile on his face. So I just think all of those things, like I mentioned on the top, like the floor is high. I'm at a point where I don't know what the ceiling is. I really don't. I don't know how good he can be. I'm starting to wonder if perhaps it goes from like him being potentially pretty good to now, I wonder if he could be special. I really am sincerely starting to wonder if he can be. So just nothing but intrigue for me with Tyrese Maxey of what he could be. This year, I don't know. I mean, certainly going to have a bigger role, but the future, like I said, I don't even want to put a ceiling on.
Just real quick on another young guy that I really like, I find very likable. He's been a guest on this show, Isaiah Joe, MCL sprain. What are we looking at there? Will that affect his regular season?
It doesn't appear that that's going to be the case. When you saw the injury, it didn't look good in real time. I think everyone was kind of holding their breath when you see him go down non-contact, grab that knee, and then limp off the court. But yeah, I mean, sprain MCL. I mean, if everything goes perfectly for him, he could be ready by training camp, which would be, perfect for him.
Good enough.
And again, thank goodness he avoids anything serious. That's the big thing. But he's another guy that, man, the Sixers really crushed the 2020 draft. When you're talking about Maxey, you're talking about Paul Reed, and you're talking about Isaiah Joe. Isaiah Joe, again, I would be shocked. Maybe it doesn't happen here, but if he's not a rotational NBA player by the time his career is over, he can shoot and he plays defense. They call that a 3-and-D, Mark. And every team needs those kind of guys. And to have one at his age and his cheap contract, I think is huge. And I think he's going to push guys. He pushed last year for minutes. He pushed Korkmaz at one point out of the rotation. So I think he's certainly a guy that also to keep your eye on. So again, that 2020 draft, man, they really knocked it out of the park.
You talk about these late picks in the first round. You talk about these picks in the second round as well. You mentioned him right there, Isaiah Joe being one of them, a guy that fell to the second round. Jared Springer, another guy, a late first round pick for the 76ers. He comes out, leads the game today, or yesterday rather, with 21 points with the team high as they close out their summer league with the win over Utah. What do you see in early expectations here for Springer in terms of being that rotational guy? Is he just here for depth in case they do end up moving Maxey or Thibault? What do you see for Jared Springer in his rookie season?
I see a lot of time in Delaware, quite frankly. And it's not,
okay.
Listen, he's 18 years old. He's 18 years old and he's playing for a team that wants to win a championship. Like what, again, it just almost speaks more volumes to what Tyrese Maxey was able to do last year. Like,
gotcha.
That shouldn't happen. A 20-year-old shouldn't be able to step into an NBA rotation on a team in the second round of the playoffs and contribute. That's not normal. So I expect Jaden Springer's development to be a lot slower. Not to say that he can't be really good at some point, but I think he's got some more stuff to work on. One of the things that he does so well, and that you saw him do well when he did flash in the summer league, is he uses that upper body strength. He's got an NBA body already, and he gets to his spots on the floor on both ends, on offense and defense. He's really good at that. So I think that's going to be an adjustment for him, because as he plays in this level, guys are going to be just as strong as he is. And so to see kind of how he adjusts to that, one of the weird quirks about him is he's a 2-foot leaper when he finishes. So I don't know if that's something, and because of that, he just doesn't get maybe the lift that other guys maybe do when they're finishing around the rim. He's what you would call a below the rim finisher. But he is crafty around there. You saw a couple of those reverse finishes he had that were pretty nice. I think the release is a little slow for my liking, but it's certainly not broken. He does have really good shooting touch. So I just think there are just a bunch of things that he needs to work on, and I think he can do that in Delaware and get lots of playing time and adjust to, again, that NBA, that professional level physicality and speed. I think he needs some time to adjust to that. But I still think, again, the arrow's pointed up. He's 18 years old, so you shouldn't have high expectations for him this year. But in general, I think that's the arrow's pointed very high.
Easy enough. It's been about 17 minutes, and we've only mentioned Ben Simmons. We haven't got into the Ben Simmons conversation, so I'm right away getting an alert from Sixers Twitter. Paul, where are we at with all this? When it comes to Ben Simmons, a possible return, him getting traded, whether or not he's talking to people in the organization, whether or not he's pissed at Doc Rivers, where are we right now in the Ben Simmons scenario?
We talked a while back, you and I think at one point you asked me for Ben Simmons, is it the field or is it the Sixers? And I said the Sixers, and I'm still there. And if anything, I think I'm more there now than I was when we previously talked.
Wow, what a brilliant and original question by me.
Well, listen, it is the most pressing topic clearly around the Sixers. And to me, it's when you look at the teams that are interested, Minnesota Timberwolves, Golden State Warriors, Sacramento Kings, San Antonio Spurs. What are those teams offering you that, one, makes you better right now, that builds a better team around Joel Embiid, to what we were talking about earlier, but then, two, also make sure that if a certain guard from Portland becomes available, you still have the necessary pieces to work out a trade.
Right.
And I don't see that with any of those organizations. So to me, if there is even a hint that you might be able to get Damian Lillard either at the trade deadline or even next off season, I think it's worth it to hang on to Ben Simmons because of how great Damian Lillard and Joel Embiid could potentially be. And I feel like too, this like if this didn't do it for Ben Simmons, as far as the local fans, the local media and the fans ripping him, people are cracking jokes at the ESPYs at him. If this wasn't enough to motivate him to want to take that leap and want to do that, however you want to this, whether it's becoming a better free throw shooter, whether it's taking threes, whether it's incorporating a mid-range jump shot, whether it's having a better finishing package around the rim, whatever you want to, whatever improvement looks like, if this doesn't force him to do that, I do not know what will. And perhaps at that point, you're talking about it has to be a change of scenery. So that part of that motivation, that chip he should have is part of the reason, of the multitude of reasons why I think Daryl Morey is okay bringing him back. Because I think you're getting a player that's going to be, quite frankly, pissed off. And he's probably going to get booed on opening night. That's probably going to piss him off more. And I think that's a good thing. I think having a guy with that chip and that motivation is a good thing. But I mean, again, just going back to all those rumored teams, Mark, like what package really entices you? I guess
that's tough. The rack of basketballs. I saw some fan report that looked interesting. I think it was I saw one like a lifetime supply of meat pies, whatever they eat in Australia, whatever those
Australian meat pies.
They are nice. They are nice.
Well, listen, I've heard this because I have a good friend of mine who is Australian, and she says that the issue with those is as she would say, tomato ketchup that we put on those is not nearly as good as the tomato ketchup in Australia.
I've heard we have the worst ketchup in this country.
Yeah, apparently. Which as a ketchup lover, I'm taken aback by. But anyway, when you look at those teams, and I guess I could talk myself into DeJounte Murray from the Spurs, like if it's centered around him and like Lonnie Walker and picks, I might be able to talk myself into that because you're not losing as much defensively because Murray's a great defender.
Okay,
and you at 25, you could talk yourself into his offensive potential.
I'm not doing it.
Yeah, exactly. I say whatever you want about Ben Simmons. He's a 3-time All-Star. He's a runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year. That still matters despite what we just saw. And so that's why you do not trade him unless you are getting appropriate value. And I think that's exactly what Daryl Morey's doing. And I think it's the right move.
Here's my end-all be-all for Ben Simmons. And last thing on him. If he comes back, and I do think that there is a really good chance that he does come back. And if he does come back, I will welcome him with open arms. But if everything else is true about how he's cutting off a lot of people from the organization, not necessarily teammates, but the organization, and he's pouting and he's angry and he's upset and he's crying on his pillow, and he doesn't come back next season with that mid-range game and does not come back with more of that aggressive mindset, I don't want him here come the NBA trade deadline. I want somebody else here that's willing to do whatever it takes to win. So I am willing to give him at least half the season next year before they eventually move on from him. But I'm not saying it has to end right now, and there's certainly not anybody other than really Dame Lillard that you could really talk me into that I think is a possible trade. That's the end-all be-all for me, as I told you way back when. That's the only person that I'm saying, hey, the cupboard's open. Everybody not named Joel Embiid, what do you want? If you can pull off that deal, that's I think where the party really starts, my friend.
I would say too, like as far as the communication with the team and I can't pretend to know what's true and what's not true at this moment. But I will say when we talked to Danny Green last week, when he talked about when he re-signed and he mentioned that, I kind of asked him in a roundabout way, and then someone directly asked him if he's contacted Ben Simmons. And he said that he hasn't, he reached out to him on 4th of July just to say hey, I hope you're enjoying your 4th of July, whatever. But he said he wanted to give Ben Simmons space because he just felt like from knowing Ben's personality, knowing how Ben is, it was best to give him space. So I think, could it be true that he's pissed off at some people in the organization? Sure, it could be true. But I also think part of it is he needed to get the hell out of Philadelphia, get away, clear his head. And probably talking to Doc Rivers or Daryl Morey or Joel Embiid every day probably wouldn't have helped him do that. So I would just say not to discredit anything that's been reported because there's really reliable reporters reporting it, but I would just caution anyone to maybe read too far into any of that.
My man, Paul Hudrick, again, couldn't be happier for you, my friend. Community producer, or as I like to call it, a managing editor of Liberty Ballers for all your piping hot basketball content. Make sure you hit up my man, Paul Hudrick. Paul, thanks so much for being on the show. Much appreciated. I'm sure we'll talk to you again real soon.
Of course, Mark. Anytime, man.
The great Paul Hudrick joining us on the Rothman Orthopaedics guest line. One last time, thanks, Paul Hudrick. Joining the show, talking some 76ers. So the Phillies lost last night. And I just want to ask one more. No, in all seriousness, I love everything I heard about B-Ball Paul. A little surprised, just a little bit. Jared Springer most likely going to be starting things out in the G League for the 76ers. I mean, I'm not shocked by it by any means, but I'm a little surprised. Just because they have had a great run of late first-round picks contribute to this lineup. Matisse Thybulle, obviously, now Tyrese Maxey, and now it seems like the bench is full a little bit when it comes to what they can be doing when the season starts up. And by the way, we'll talk about this a little bit more in the morning rush. Sixers snubbed out of a Christmas Day game, which I'm not all that mad about. I enjoy having that day to just kind of casually watch basketball as opposed to really being into it. Especially because I have to recover from the night before where my dad and I cook the seven fish, this feast of seven fish on Christmas Eve. So it's nice to have a day to just kind of relax for a second. But they are playing against the Brooklyn Nets as things open up. Not so much Christmas Day, but when things open up, Brooklyn Nets, very interesting. So we'll get into that a little bit more in our Morning Rush segment brought to you by Sky Motorcars. But right now, let me tell you about my good friends at Rothman Orthopaedics who bring us our guests each and every day. Remember the old you? The one that didn't have to put up with a fickle knee, a finicky hip, or a shoulder that no longer does what a shoulder should do. The Rothman approach to orthopedics. Let me say that one more time. The Rothman approach to orthopedics is here to get you back to being you. Back to running, walking, working, and playing. Back to living your life the way you want. With same-day appointments available, you can start today at RothmanOrtho.com. That's RothmanOrtho.com. Rothman Orthopaedics, the official orthopedic partner for your Phillies, Eagles, and Sixers. By the way, we here at the Farzy Show got something special planned with Rothman Orthopaedics that we look forward to debuting in the coming weeks. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Also want to tell you about our friends at Steak and Maine. Anthony Cavada hooking you up at Steak and Maine. SteakandMaine.com. Check it out for more information. Fine dining in the heart of Northeast Maryland. It is fantastic. I've talked to you about the great room they have at the rotating table, sharing all the great meals that they have there. If you go in there, you can eat at the bar. You can eat there in the dining room. You can eat there at the beautiful steakhouse that they have set up for you. Great decor. The place is amazing. Yeah, I always recommend the 2-pound tomahawk steak. Might as well just called the Farzy steak. That's how much I love it there. You get this great steak. You pair it with a Cavada Cellars wine, Pinot Noir. You go to the moon. You go to the moon and take your first bite, take a sip of that wine. It is the perfect match for you. You like sushi? They got it. They got great sushi. They like great seafood? They got fresh cut seafood that is just out of this world. Delicious. And, of course, the amazing steak. You can treat yourself there at Steak and Maine and SteakandMaine.com. Eagles fans, you can get the Eagle Roll. Being a Maryland the bar and restaurant, they also have the Ravens Roll. Course, I go with the Eagle Roll. I had it, and it is fantastic. So make sure you check it out. SteakandMaine.com for more information. Fine dining in the heart of Northeast Maryland. Voted #1 place for steaks in America by the Travel Channel and the Cooking Channel. I think they know a thing or two about great steaks in this country. Also, all these great stories going around the Philadelphia sports scene. Make sure you're following them at PHL Sports Nation. That's PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience. Let's get into our morning rush. I always screw that up. Let's get into the fine comments here on our comment section where we talk about our social media check-in brought to you by Steak and Maine and SteakandMaine.com. A lot of people weighing in today. Much appreciated as per usual. April started us off. April saying good morning. Right back at you, April. Mally up next saying good morning to producer Jim. That's always nice. Dan Schwartz, 3 hits. 3. Trace. Trois. Trey. Tippin. Tella. Treasy. Can't understand any languages. 3. literally what he wrote. That wasn't me ad-libbing. That wasn't amazing ad-libbing quality by me. No, that's just what Dan wrote. And then he says, good morning. He says, where's Benny? We'll try to find Benny later in the chat. Benny checked in the other day, though. Everything was fine with Benny. He wasn't kidnapped, so all was well. April, those bats are still on the East Coast, are still on East Coast time. They certainly seemed it last night. How do you get 3 hits? The Arizona Diamondbacks have the second highest ERA in all of baseball. The Arizona Diamondbacks have the second highest WHIP in all of baseball. The Arizona Diamondbacks, according to the Elias Sports Bureau, it says here, according to the Elias Sports Bureau, they suck! And yet the Phillies lost to them. In case that was fine ad-libbing by me, the Elias Sports Bureau didn't actually say that, but I'm saying it because it's true, and I would never lie to you. Break out the impression. It'll make us feel better? Break out the impression. The impression? Peacock? Is that what you want to hear, April? The Peacock a little bit later? Wait, now Marc is talking about Joel and not doing the impression. It's not their fault that Simmons is lazy. That's April. He has all the parts to be great. He just want to put out the minimum effort. You know, that's what it seems like. And we're going to get to this a little bit more in our morning rush. I got some video I want you guys to show. I didn't show it the other day. I'm still at the point where, like I said to Paul, I'd welcome him back with open arms, but that doesn't mean that it's forever. That doesn't mean that I want him to get, a deal that's going to keep him here for the foreseeable future. I had my hesitations more than a lot of people did when it came to the max contract that he already signed. I mean, the Sixers rewarded him with that. We talked about it a lot last week, and the Sixers have shown so much confidence in Ben Simmons, and now he's mad at the Sixers. Like, what? And then Colin Cowherd also went on a rant about it, so I'm sure he watches the show and just stole a lot of my return. Anyway, but it's just ridiculous. Minimum effort, but what's max money? Mally and April, you guys hit the nail right on the head. Henry's checking in, saying good morning. What's up, Henry? Nice to have you. Mally's in again. Pinky up, Marc. I'm done my espresso. I finished it while we were watching Paul. April, the catch was awesome. Just need him to make those in the game. That's for Jalen Reagor. He absolutely does need to make those in the game. And look, he had a drop in the first preseason game. We talked about it. Jalen Hurts kind of short-armed it a little bit, threw a little too low on a comeback route. That still goes on Jalen Reagor. Jalen Reagor, it hits you in both hands. That's a drop. You need to make that play. I think 80% of receivers in the NFL make that play. And Jalen Reagor, first-round pick, better make that play. Practice without being practice. Repost City. Yeah, Henry, he did love himself some him. What did T.O. say? I love me some me. Ever since he said that, I have not gotten that out of my head. Luigi, some crazy weather forecast the next few days, but Farzy doesn't care. That's right. I'm rebellious. Not getting a weather girl. Vince is checking in. What's up, Vince? He finds Luigi hilarious, as we all do. Maui, Luigi. He doesn't. It's sad. Phillies lost, and a weather girl would have really brightened my morning. Miscusi, Mally, Miscusi, Vince, and Miscusi, Luigi. Come on, Marc. It's hump day, and no Hollis. Dan says, just dropped my daughter off. Couldn't tell her how to dress for the weather. Luigi is making some great points. Where's producer Jim? I think producer Jim checks in a little bit later in the conversation here. The NBA contracts this summer are insane. Nobody's worth the money that these guys are being paid in the NBA. They'll price themselves right out. You have to take a loan to go to a game anymore. Ray, let me say this. The second part of that is true. These games are crazy expensive. And the first part of that, I always catch myself thinking about whenever I see a big contract. And that means Bryce Harper, that means Joel Embiid, that means whatever. Like, it's just a thought that always crosses my mind. And I think it crosses a lot of people's mind. Like the money what you could do with that money in the grand scheme of things in the world. And I'm not saying to take that money away from the players. And I'm not saying every player has to spend money to solve the world's problems. And Lord knows there's a lot of them right now. And we'll actually mention that at the end of the show. But this is it's something that always crosses my mind. And then, of course, I always think about the families that are trying to go to games and can't afford it. And now as a parent, I mean, screw it, as an adult, you don't even have to be a father or a parent. You go to a game just by yourself where your parents aren't footing the bill. And man, do you appreciate any effort your parents made in taking you to a game? Like, I think about my parents. I think about going to games with my friends and their parents taking me. And it's like, as a parent, do you talk to other parents? Because before I know it, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday with little Toots going to school in, a couple of weeks, well, daycare or whatever. It's like, how do you handle the situations where your kid is going to an experience, a game, a play, a movie, whatever it might be, with another parent, like with their friend and their parents? Like, do you offer money? Is that tacky? Is that like, do you offer money to the other family that is going to take your kid to a movie or to a game and say, hey, can I give you some money for concessions, or can I give you some money? Like, do you offer that, or is that like rude? Or do you then have to and invite that kid over and then spoil them? Like, how does that work? Like, these are the things I think about as someone who never wants to like offend someone when it comes to personal settings. How do you handle that? But like, you think about that going to a game, how much ticket prices are. It's ridiculous. What else do we have here? So, Ray, thank you. You tapped into my brain a little bit more. Cody, it is crazy how much money they make. Generational wealth established for a sixth man. Cody, you ain't wrong. Marc was a Globetrotter. He would accept weed as pay. Maybe the 76ers should sign him. I would work for cheap. That's for damn sure. Mally, just very simple. Get Dame. That's really the mission. Get Dame. Sixers have done nothing but put fear into the NBA. Yeah. So how do we get Marc Zumoff back? Matt, you're not far off there. April, I saw this. April, totally unrelated to anything, but you guys know and will appreciate this, how excited I am. I actually found pork roll at a grocery store down here. She's in North Carolina. The fat kid in me is so happy. You don't even got to be the fat kid. Pork roll is delicious. Pork roll should be everywhere. I am extremely happy for you, April. Like, of all the weekends I traveled for 11 years, I traveled every weekend for Sunday Night Football. If I was away and I found anything related to Philadelphia in a grocery store, it warmed my heart to find something local. So, April, good for you. Happy for you. Dan Drummond was a sneaky but nice pickup. He gets many boards. It's insane. I was happy about the Drummond pickup. I'm still very happy about the Drummond pickup. All those small wins. Yeah, all those small wins, Matt. I think you're referring to the Phillies and any win that they had in the NL East. And yeah, can we get back to that NL East as fast as humanly possible? Can that happen? I've been begging for that. Good stuff, April. I'd say well deserved. Still haven't got it on paper. April, funny you mentioned that. I actually thought I had found it last night, but still no luck. Found a bunch of other random crap. Okay, you lost me. I'm sorry, guys. The Sealski reference. Other things going on. Cole Hamels did get paid. That's in our morning rush today. What does below the rim reverse finish sound? Why does below the rim reverse finish sound kinky? Dan, what the hell is wrong with you? What else do we have here? Dan Schwartz, Sealski the animal greater than Ben Simmons. Well, you're not far off. Pete, Marc, deny you smoke weed one more time. I dare you. Do I need to at this point? I think you guys get me. April, you're a grown woman. You shouldn't have a kid. What the? All right. Got to keep on moving along. Not touch that one. I have a dark sense of humor, so I still laugh, but ew. Julian, you guys are nuts. You guys are nuts, and that's why I love you and look forward to our conversations every single day. Thank you to everyone that checked in on our social media check-in, brought to you by Steak and Made at steakandmade.com. Let's move on to our morning rush now, brought to you by Sky Motorcars at skymotorcars.com. We were just talking about Ben Simmons. Let's bring it back to Ben Simmons. I didn't play this for you guys yesterday, but yes, Alex, you did almost get me. Here is Ben Simmons, released by his shooting coach and trainer, Chris Johnson. Take a look at this. Oh, come here! Oh, come here! It's always awkward. He always goes off the wrong foot. It's so weird. I can't stop saying it, and I can't help seeing it. It looks so wrong to me. But we have seen Ben Simmons do that a number of times. Why is that what Ben Simmons is working on? And then his shooting coach trainer, Chris Johnson, also puts this out here. How many point guards got this in the bag? Ben Simmons details making live reads, playing off the screen, high crossover into a power dunk finish. Just shoop. All right, just hoop. I know what it's supposed to say. Why is that what he's working on? Why do I see him shooting threes? I don't need him shooting threes. Why is this the stuff that he posts? The stuff that you know he does? If you're Chris Johnson, you want to make more money. You want to make that money. You want to recruit more clients. Why are you showing crap that he already does? This is insane to me. I feel like I am on crazy pills. What the hell? Why is he working on that when he can already do that? How many point guards got that in the bag? I don't know. You know what every other point guard seems to have in the bag? Like a 10-foot jump shot. I will stress one more time. This isn't Ben putting this out. I know sometimes things get misconstrued. And it's like, oh, Ben, put up videos. Ben's not putting up the video. His shooting guy is. He's probably okaying the video to be released, but I still haven't seen a hoop at his house yet. Still haven't seen that beautiful, what was it, $17.5 million compound? If it's multiple houses on one property, it's a compound, right? Or do other people have to live there? Like other family members have to live there? Like I know a couple of people who like own farmland, or the family owns farmland, and then they just said, hey, take these 3 acres, that'll be your house and your yard. And they live on I call it the compound. Anyway. Yes, Mally, I am pretty pissed off. I don't even know why I put the quarter in. That was what happened there with Ben Simmons. Also, this picture from Colts training camp has struck up some conversation here in Philadelphia. That's what you got there. You have that guy that coached here and won a Super Bowl. If I don't know if you remember, 2 of the guys that coached here and won a Super Bowl. One guy coordinated, the other guy coached, I guess. You have Doug Peterson looking at Carson Wentz, and they're just having a great time. They love life. Apparently, this was a big thing, and I know Doug Peterson spoke to Peter King recently and talked to Peter King about how he was going to Indianapolis to see Frank Reich, but he knew Carson was going to be there too. And he wanted to have this nice embrace with Carson. And he got that nice embrace with Carson. And they hugged it out. And they seemed to have all right with the world when they saw each other. Look, again, I don't really care much for the Carson Wentz story. I'm done with it. I'm moving on. We got other problems in Philadelphia. The only thing I'm looking at with Carson Wentz right now is really how he does out there in terms of playing 70% of the snaps or 75% of the snaps to make sure that the conditional pick flips from a second to a first rounder. That's really all I care about. But looking at that picture, my first thought was eye roll, and then I thought about it a little more. And here's why I care about this a little bit. Without Doug Peterson, without Carson Wentz, the Eagles do not win their first and only Super Bowl. That doesn't happen. So for those two to have a good relationship matters to me. I want them to have a good relationship. I don't want to look back on that era and think, wow, they won once, and then it all fell apart, and now everyone hates each other. Like, that's not how it is. And it seems like they can at least be in the same room together, and they can at least hug it out a little bit. So you know what? I'm fine with it. First reaction was an eye roll, and then I was like, you know what? Stop being a heartless bastard there, Mark, and get let's see what's really, just scratch the surface a little bit. And you know what? You know what's below that surface? Emotion. And it seems like the two are just getting along fine. So that's nice. What else do we have here? We'll get to that a little bit later. Cole Hamels, ladies and gentlemen. Cole Hamels. I wanted Cole Hamels here. I said if Cole Hamels is good enough and healthy enough to pitch in the majors and he signs with somebody, that better be Philadelphia. Well, Dave Dombrowski, I still wish you would have rolled the dice. What's $1 million in the grand scheme of things in baseball when you're paying out the wazoo for a guy like Bryce Harper? Why not roll the dice on Cole Hamels? Well, Cole Hamels ain't even going to pitch this year because he had a little throwing session with his new team, the LA Dodgers, and already had shoulder pain, so he's done. He's not going to pitch at all. Such is life. Cole got another $1 million out of baseball. Good for him. What else did I have here? Ben Simmons, Cole Hamels, Doug Peterson. I got it right there. That's That's what I got for you. Phillies, they'll go up against the Arizona Diamondbacks again today, 9:40 start time. Yes, I'm going to stay up for it again because I hate myself. Ranger Suarez will be on the hill for the Phillies tonight, as well as I had it in my notes. Where the hell did you go? Humberto Castellanos will be on the bump today. Right-handed pitcher. He's got a 2.30 ERA for the Arizona Diamondbacks. He does not have a lot of starts under his belt this year. As a matter of fact, he's got one start under his belt this year, and he's only appeared in 8 games. So, hey, Phillies, have at it, please. Please have at it. Can you make it one of them games where, like, by the 3rd inning, it's like 11-2, and I can go to bed? We can all go to bed. Public service announcement: if you're on your way to the office today, if you got a bunch of Zoom calls and you feel like someone's being a little short-tempered, give them a little patience. Just don't let them get to you. They probably stayed up last night and watched the Phillies. On a serious note, I think we all know what. Look. I don't get into politics because I hate politics to begin with. But I do want to just say this to everyone that served our country, especially over the last 20 years. Just like you, I have family members. I have people I love. I have people I've greatly respected served in Afghanistan. And I just want to let you know, if you're a veteran, you're listening to this, you're a veteran that listens to me, and you've served over there, like many of my friends and family, thank you for the hard work that you put in. I can't imagine the emotion that you're going through right now. And I'm not going to get into anything deeper than that, other than I just want to say thank you. And if you guys remember a name, Alejandro Villanueva, he made a name for himself as an offensive tackle, left tackle in the NFL. He was with the Eagles under Chip Kelly for a little while in training camp some years ago. And he did 3 tours in Afghanistan as a Army Ranger. And I just greatly respect this man as a football player, as a human being. And I think he was born in the United States, but I think he grew up in Spain. His parents are Spanish, from Spain. And he addressed the Ravens yesterday, and this caught my eye. And I just thought I'd play it for you guys to end the show today. But here's Alejandro Villanueva talking about what this country and really the sport of football gave him. He's with the Ravens now. Like I said, he was with the Eagles for a bit. He didn't make it the roster of the regular season, but the Steelers picked him up, made him an offensive tackle as opposed to being a defensive end. And he's made a Pro Bowler a couple times over, and here he is with the Ravens now.
You got to love the game. If you want to overcome injuries, the long season we got ahead, the disappointments, the tough moments in your career when you get caught, picked up, free agency, it all boils down to how much you love the game of football. And so I ask everyone to do a little bit of, thinking in terms of, what is the game giving you in your life? And I know for me, it's been incredibly special. I came to this country when I was 17 years old, and I had nothing other than this football team that taught me absolutely everything about America. I mean, how many other places in the world can you have a group like this? As diverse from different places in the United States, all looking for the common goal. That's unbelievable. I love being a Warrior. I love being a Warrior, you guys. So let's break it down.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everyone. Much appreciated. Hoping I can announce a very special guest for tomorrow's show. Hopefully I can do that a little bit later today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. My name's Jim Hyden, who produced the program. This is a Buzz Sports and Entertainment production. My name is Marc Farzetta. Let's go Phillies. Please win today. That'd be nice. Have a great day, everybody. Take it easy.